I first came across Scotland Yard when I was a kid, reading Sherlock Holmes stories. And as a kid, I just simply associated Scotland Yard with the police. But when I started looking into it recently, I understood that I had it right originally. Uh, it was the police. All Scotland Yard is the way they refer to the Metropolitan Police, the police department that has responsibility for 32 boroughs in the city of London. And they will use the term Scotland Yard the way we would use the term Wall Street, simply to refer to the financial business. Well, Scotland Yard is a reference to the Metropolitan Police, much the way we would say the NYPD. But that got me thinking, what about, do they have the equivalent of the FBI in UK? And I did a little bit of research on it, and I'm prepared to share it with you, and I'll give you some insight, I think, into a little bit in terms of how policing works in the UK. So let's take the FBI. The first thing you think about with the FBI is counterintelligence, counterterrorism, that kind of stuff. Well, in UK, that's fundamentally the job of MI5. Namely domestic intelligence. And of course, other police forces are going to have something or other to do with it, but fundamentally it's in the province of MI5. Now let's think in terms of criminal investigations. And you know the FBI has jurisdiction over something like 200 federal crimes, things that cross interstate lines, things like that, helping out local police forces with investigations they're trying to carry out. Well, in UK, that equivalent is a thing called the National Crime Agency. And they're doing sort of the same thing, looking at crimes that take place that have a kind of a big picture feel to them. Organized crime, drug trafficking, missing persons, things that would involve the entirety of the country. Now also when you think of the FBI, you think of their massive ballistics database or information, whatever it is that they've got, and you'll see local police forces uploading ballistics to the FBI to see if they can identify a gun or whatnot. Well, in UK, they've got something similar, but it's not part of that National Crime Agency. It's a thing called the National Ballistics Identification Service, which is, I guess, part of the Home Office, which is where you would find the National Crime Agency, but it's separate from the National Crime Agency. Now, the other thing we think about with the FBI, and you see it all the time, is when they get a suspect's fingerprints, they'll upload them to the FBI's database called AFIS, and AFIS will compare fingerprints that they've got on their database with fingerprints identified at a particular crime, and with any luck, they'll return a match. Well, in UK, they've got a thing called Ident1, Ident1, and that is a national database of fingerprints. Again, I don't think it's part of the National Crime Agency, but it's hard to tell. Now, similarly, if you're watching shows involving the FBI, police will come across DNA, and they check it with the FBI's CODIS database, which is a massive database of all kinds of DNA samples. Well, UK has something similar. Again, I don't believe it's in the National Crime Agency. What UK has is a thing called the National DNA Database. And again, I believe that to be a separate agency or a separate department. So if you look at it, the major things that us TV fans see the FBI getting involved in the US, ballistics, fingerprints, DNA, interstate investigations, things like that, The UK has all the same functions, but they seem to have them splintered among a bunch of different little agencies. So anyway, that's a long way about saying that the Scotland Yard is just an address, just that. I hope that clarifies a little bit the differences between US and UK police functions. And I know I've got a bunch of viewers in the UK, and I'm sure that you'll be able to clarify whatever mistakes that I just made. Okay, that's the report on Scotland Yard.